Hey, thanks for joining me on the Extraordinary Podcast. I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to check out this newest episode. I wanted to take just a real quick second to apologize for the poor audio quality on this episode. This was our very first remote interview. This was done well before COVID-19. We knew at some point we were going to have to get into the remote interviews, so this was our first attempt to do so. It shows. This is definitely not our best work. But they say to start ugly, well, sometimes you have to continue ugly. And that's what we're doing with this episode. The other reason that I wanted to post this, number one, Marisa is a great interview, and actually her microphone is pretty decent. Thankfully, she does most of the talking, so hopefully you'll enjoy the things that she has to say. But I also wanted to document the process. With this being our very first episode, you can see the raw and how bad it is. And hopefully you'll see some improvements if you go back and listen to Liz Carlisle's interview, and hopefully as we continue to do these remote broadcasts, you'll continue to see audio improvements. My goal is to get to the point where you as a listener don't know the difference of it being in person or remote. So hopefully we'll get to that point. In the meantime, please enjoy my conversation with Marisa Meddin. Many of us dream of retiring and traveling the world. Others fantasize about creating that visionary product or business. Yet so few of us ever do anything about it. When it comes time to actually make the decision, we tend to retreat to our safe place and complain about why it can never happen. And understandably so. To actually live out those realities can be intimidating and scary. But for those who take the plunge and commit, the reward can be life-changing. And if you can figure out how to provide value and service to others in the process, you have the makings for an incredibly meaningful life. Marisa Meddin started her journey like most of us, checking all the boxes. After graduating from Michigan, she was engaged with a high-paying marketing job working for Pepsi, following the traditional path. But a lack of job fulfillment and a relationship that ultimately didn't feel right left Marisa wanting more, seeking more. And like so many of us, Marisa went to work on herself, her dreams, and long-term vision for her life. This took some time and evolved through more than one business model. But each step and business helped Marisa realize her destiny. From an early age, Marisa realized she had a gift as a communicator. People would often look to her for advice and consolation. She thought little of it at first, but then through a strange series of events, Marisa discovered her gift as a medium. Marisa has manifested her ability by providing closure to those who have lost loved ones. She does this through writing and journaling, and despite skepticism, she's always able to provide answers and resolutions to those who seek her services. Even though I have my own reservations, I can truly say that whatever Marisa does, it's of tremendous benefit to those who receive it. And if their perspectives are transformed in a positive manner through Marisa's gifts, and they are able to grow and put their lives back together, then maybe we could all benefit from this type of experience, whether you actually believe it or not. Listen to how she found her gift and the amazing stories that ensue as a result. Then decide for yourself if a medium experience is right for you after listening to my conversation with Marisa Meddin. Say, is that how you found your first started finding your travel deals and stuff like that?
No, not. I don't even know what that is actually.
He's like a consumer advocate guy. He's on
gotcha.
On the local radio and TV
Gotcha.
and everything, and his big thing was
Okay.
always travel deals. Like he'd always be able to tell you
Gotcha.
all these amazing travel deals. I mean, we're talking like dirt cheap.
Right.
And what was always so neat about him is like he actually would do them. He's a super cheap guy anyway, so
Right.
he would actually take his team on like these, like they would go to like Sweden for like $150 one way or something.
That's
like
awesome.
there's something crazy like that.
Right.
And you had to jump through all these hoops and hurdles, but that's kind of how he initially made his mark. And now he does all kind of consumer advocacy stuff. He's a great guy.
Cool.
But it was funny to me because I think of him as like a little bit the older generation, because he's radio, TV, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But these millennials that I interviewed, they're like traveling to China and just bouncing around Amsterdam, all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, man, Clark Howard, that's my guy. Like, because I said places
Interesting.
like
That's like
as
how
a
it
kid, like,
began.
yeah, it was really neat to kind of
Oh, that's
see the full
awesome.
perspective. But
Yeah,
so,
no.
how did you get started with all this travel stuff?
Mine was I had always kind of done a little bit of international traveling, and then I did. So I was living in New York City. My boyfriend at the time took a job in LA, and I took off like 2 months in between. So I was like, I'm just gonna travel a little bit, and then I just caught the travel bug, and the two of us were gonna like quit our jobs, travel the world, go to Southeast Asia after we were engaged, and then I called off the engagement. I didn't do that, but still had that
Still
dream
felt the need to do
to
the
do it.
traveling.
Yeah, so instead of like going through savings and just like quitting and doing nothing, I started a couple businesses and work full time while I travel now.
So
So
tell me what that like, or what was that transition like to figure out how to live on the road and still make a living and all that? What did that look like?
yeah, so I was actually working for Pepsi in marketing for like 6 years, which I know is like everyone in Atlanta is like, you're a traitor. Just
Were
because
you
Coke
working
World,
for
but
Pepsi in Atlanta?
no, in New York and then LA.
Okay.
Yeah, I quit my job and I knew I wanted to travel, and I'd read like, so the 4 Hour Work Week, and I've read it by Tim Ferriss, was kind of like
Yeah.
my holy grail of like, oh, this is possible. I can work from a computer, like, and make money and travel the world. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So that was like what got started. And for 2 years, I was still trying to figure out like, what business do I start? What is that? And when I left my engagement, I was like, I want to quit my job. I don't want to be here anymore. I just kind of like started everything over. But really, to get into travel, I moved back to Atlanta, and that's where I like hunkered down, spent a lot of time by myself, like not seeing friends. I was just like, I'm just starting this business. I want to leave in September. I want to go to Bali. That was like my thing. And I kind of set a date and just really got the business started, working from home in Atlanta first, and then set out traveling. And I joined a group. A lot of the time I travel with a group called Wi-Fi Tribe, which is all people who work remotely like me and travel the world. So right now in Mexico, I'm here with like 20 other friends, half of who I've known before from like other countries that we've been in, half of which are kind of new people. And so it's really
Kind of like a
just
band of gypsies.
literally, yeah, we're like this like weird group. I'm like, you people get me. No one else at home understands.
That's so neat.
But it's awesome, yeah, because we all kind of like live in the same space, and so there's always someone. Like, I went boxing with someone this morning. Like, I'll go back and do some co-working with like just other friends later. Like, we'll all go out to dinner tonight. It's just like you have this built-in group of friends, and it's also fun and silent. Yeah, it's just a good way to, again, like Monday through Friday, I'm pretty much just working, but I'm like by a pool in Mexico instead of in the cold Atlanta. And then on the weekend, we'll take like trips to, like islands nearby, or, depending what country we're in, do like cool trips like that on the weekend. So it's still kind of like a mix of both.
Well, and that's really neat to have a group that you can relate with like that, because then it takes the pressure off feeling the need to have a one-on-one specific relationship, because I know like trying to travel and being in just the two of you, like that creates a different dynamic. But then having that like almost like a community or a family kind of feel that you're traveling with, that really makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, they feel like family to me. So yeah, like you said, there's like different people who are good for different things. And every now and then I'll kind of jump and like just travel with one person for a little while. And I feel, yeah, the one-on-one is harder. And it's usually when I'm moving faster, just to like, I'll like stay for a month or two and then like quick do some travel to some new countries, stay, because it gets tiring. Like I burn out if I just go all the time. So I was supposed to leave Mexico like a week ago, and I think I'm staying for another month because I was like, it's just easy. I was pretty burned out. So yeah, I needed that. So
well, it's cool that you can find those comfort spots in places like that, but to be able to feel that in really cool locations, man, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for me, home has just become the people. Like, it doesn't matter where I am. And now, like, I think even before I knew anyone in this group, it was like that right away, because they just do an amazing job of kind of like interviewing people, getting a group, you set up, everyone gets there the same day, and it's like from day one, these are your people. But now that I know a lot, like I've been doing it for a year and a half on and off, and I know so many people now. So when I get there, I'm like, like I already have friends. It's not so like they know me at a very deep level. It's not just like meeting strangers. When you're backpacking, it's just like new people in a hostel or this or that. Yeah, it's very different than what I'm doing. And so I feel like home. I'm like, these are my friends. Like this is home.
It's one of the things that I hope to gain out of travel is showing up to places where
you've got a tribe of people already there. Like a lot of the people that I'm friends with that do a lot of this travel, like they've got their little Amsterdam crew that they go hang with when they show there. They've got their London crew that they're always running around with, and
so
they're waiting for him to show up so they can go take him and do all these things, and it's like each one of these little families kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not just doing like the touristy thing, and it's like you're in with like the local people, which is fun.
So let me ask you some of the logistics behind that, because I'm real curious about there's some aspects that you don't really necessarily think about that Tim Ferriss brings up in his book, like the whole idea of having a mortgage or a home to come back to, or cars, or vehicles, like stationary things that you may or may not want to keep up with while you're gone. What did that look like for you? How do you deal with all that? Do you like keep like a storage unit? Like what does that look like?
It's really hard. That's like the hardest part is for a lot of people figuring it out. For me, it was. So I still have a condo in Atlanta. I was able to get short-term permission. Like there's only a certain amount, like percentage of them can be rented at any given time. And I got like a special permission for about a year to rent it out while I was gone. So I left all of my I just like moved my clothes out. My parents had some extra storage space. So I was like, I just took out all my clothes and like any like personal things, and I put it, at their place, and left, it's like my couch, my furniture, my bed, like, kitchen, all that stuff is there.
Like an Airbnb kind of situation with the way you left it.
Like looking back, that would have been a major factor to know that I could have Airbnb and rented out. Because what would be the most ideal is if I could just say, hey, I'm going to be gone for these months, rent out Airbnb, like come home to it when I'm there, leave again, rent it out. Right. But mine has to be like a year-long rental, or right now I'm not allowed to do anything until someone's selling their place in October, and I'll be able to do it again. So I'm just kind of paying double at the moment, which is really unfortunate.
That's so cool that you're a hometown girl. Where did you grow up in Atlanta?
Right in like Midtown, like kind of right by Piedmont Park area.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine just moved out there. His window overlooked one of the entrances to Piedmont Park. It was beautiful.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love it.
Spot.
So I'm right by the entrance, and I like walk around through there all day. So that's where my place is now still when I am home.
It's gotten thick down there. It's really crowded. It's become the popular place to be for sure. It's beautiful. That's good.
Yeah.
So you said you're going to be sticking around Mexico for a little while.
Yeah, I think definitely another 2.5 weeks for sure. And then I think probably like another month in total.
So one of the things I'm really fascinated by, one of the things I hope to share with doing this podcast is like lifestyle by design.
Yes.
And like figuring out how to craft your lifestyle. And so you said that you went back to Atlanta to try to establish that business and everything, but so you had to put in a lot of prep work. Tell me about what that looked like what you did for that prep work period. And then also too, like what is the business? What does that look like for you? How are you able to financially support this lifestyle?
The two different parts there. So I've started, the business I'm running now is the fourth one that I've started. And that's a lot of the work by design as well. So I can talk, I don't know, what you want to share, how much you want to get into when we record, but when I came back, like
we
you said,
recording.
Oh, okay. Is this it? I thought you were just asking.
So I guess I should say, this is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Marisa Meddin. Now that we're halfway through,
official.
Yeah.
We're just chatting. It's cool.
Thanks for joining me, and let's pick right back up where we left off. Tell me about coming to Atlanta and what you did to kind of set this business up, or set yourself up for this lifestyle rather.
So what I tell a lot of people now is just start with the end in mind. And so I had that Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week kind of goal in mind of there is this way to travel full time and work. And that's what I want to be doing. But like you said, it takes a lot to kind of start it up first, right? So I didn't just, leave with quitting my job and having no business. I moved back to my parents for a couple of months after leaving this. Like I felt like I'd gone totally backwards. I quit the corporate job at Pepsi, left the engagement, went to my parents, and the first business I started was actually an online e-commerce kind of dessert business. I shipped out basically for anybody who wanted to send gifts to their friends for holidays, birthdays, things like that. And it was a business that my mom had run and closed about 20 years ago. So in Atlanta, actually. It's called The Dessert Place. There was 4 of them in Atlanta. And it was just this kind of built-in demand. It was a business I knew. very different. She had brick and mortar places, but I was living the Tim Ferriss life. So I said, I can move back to Atlanta, start baking, learning everything to start shipping out. And then I can outsource, a la Tim Ferriss, all the baking and the shipping, and marketing is, what I'm good at. So I'll just do that full time from my computer wherever I am. And, but like you said, the design of it, I was back in Atlanta. I then moved into my own place, but I'm a very social person. Like, I'm always hanging with friends and that. And when I was back in Atlanta for about 9 months to a year, I had my head down. I was working. I was either binging podcasts, books, online courses, learning everything I possibly could about online businesses, and also a lot of this like energetic spiritual stuff. I was healing emotionally, all these things. And I hardly saw friends or family for a good year, just putting all this work with the end, and like you said, building this lifestyle by design. And the design that I had was, I'm going to work full time from my computer anywhere in the world. And I want to be in Southeast Asia. I had this dream to go to like Thailand and Cambodia, Bali. Vietnam, and Bali, all those places. And so that was a lot of it. And I remember my parents and friends and family and all these people to start were really worried about me. And like, Marisa, you need to get out. You need to see your friends and family. Like, you're alone. Like, what are you doing? And for me, it was so important. It was this little time where I put in the work to build that lifestyle that I envisioned for myself. And I was following all these travelers and people online. I was like, I know nobody in Atlanta living this life. I don't know anyone else personally living this life, but I kind of made these little connections online of just watching other people live it. And I knew that it was possible. So that was the start of it.
Who were some of those initial people that you found that were like, okay, because that's what I tell a lot of people is like, once you figure out what you want to do or how you want to live, go find somebody who's doing that and go pick their brain, go find out what it is that they do. Who were some of those? Because obviously you weren't finding them in Atlanta, and I find that same problem as well for where I want to go. Like, the people I'm looking for aren't necessarily here or at least close to me. Where did you find them, and who were some of those initial people?
A lot of them, I want to say I found almost everybody on Instagram. So somebody I started following, it was about 2 years before that, actually, when I did that first kind of 2 month stint in between New York and LA, was this guy named Drew Binsky. His Instagram handle is @Drew Binsky. And he went to this Wisconsin. He's I think he was 24, 25 at the time when I started following him. And he's now on a mission to visit every single country in the world. He makes all of his money by filming YouTube videos and really posting daily content about the traveling. And so his is more of, he's making money by traveling rather than doing a separate job. So I was following a lot of those. But he was one where I just saw, okay, you can live this life. This is possible. It was a traveler I would always follow. There's some online entrepreneurs, a woman named Melissa Griffin, Jenna Kutcher. Who else was I following? Can't even remember now. Those were the biggest ones at the time that I can remember, who had built these online businesses and just kind of had the freedom to go whenever and wherever. And I'm sure there was a lot. I had a whole Instagram feed of traveling people who are making money somehow. And
you go deep on those and like try to you find every single one you can snatch up and start tracking what they're doing, how they're doing it.
There's another woman who had built an online course teaching yoga and was living she just moved on a sailboat with her husband. So just any kind of thing.
That's right out of Tim Ferriss, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it was important to me. I felt like my friends and my network were these people I had never met before, but I needed that to know that it was possible. And
now you feel like you kind of found them, huh?
Yeah, and now I have real life friends who, I probably have met over 100 easily. I've done something called Nomad Cruise, which is like 200 digital nomads, or it's half the people are already living this lifestyle and half the people who are interested in learning how. And then with Wi-Fi Tribe, who I travel with, I probably now live with over 100 different digital nomads who have all sorts of real jobs. They're real people. I see that they're working and making money and traveling. And now I have my own network, which is really awesome.
That is really awesome. So let's go back to the business just for a minute. I do want to talk more about the tribe and the group that you hang with. But let's talk about the business. You said that evolved into 4 different businesses at this point in the game. So it started off as this kind of a bakery brick and mortar concept. Tell me how did it evolve from there?
I'll give you the evolution of my businesses. And I've kept, when you talk about, lifestyle by design and people are like, what's your passion? Start this business. I just didn't know. And so when I started that dessert business, it was kind of like the low hanging fruit of the next best thing I could think of. I realized pretty quickly, I really disliked baking, and I just wasn't quite aligned with the product. I tried to be healthier, and I was like selling all of these desserts, and I just knew it wasn't right for me. But it was really meaningful because it was my mom's brand, her story, and all of that. But from there, as I was
family business,
it has a good story to it. But as I was locked in my condo, just binging everything I could and learning, I came across this. It was a webinar that said, how to build your email list. So for any entrepreneur online, building your email list is like the number one way to make money, right? You can, once you have this audience, you can always reach them. Social media algorithms change, but you have that email list that you can reach and sell anything basically.
And who was that by, if you don't mind me asking? Where did you find that?
Yeah, that's what I love.
Because I need that. Selfishly, all right, so where do I need to check that box?
Yeah, his name is Mike Dillard. He might have removed the program I did, but it was a webinar. It was, I think, a Facebook ad that I clicked on, honestly, that was like, how to build your email list. And I was like, yes, I do need this to, sell more desserts. And as I did it, he has a podcast too. It's called Self-Made Man that I binged for a solid year. Just he interviews entrepreneurs who are doing all sorts of cool things. But in that webinar, it turned in from, it like brings you in as how to build an email list, but it was really about selling online courses. And for me, I guess online courses were kind of newer back then. This was about 4 or 5 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at this and you can charge so much more. I was thinking, I don't have to bake brownies. I don't have to, ship products all over the country or worry about things not getting there.
Yeah, it's a digital product at the end of the day.
Exactly. Digital project, higher margins, no shipping, and it can be something I cared about more. So it's all of these reasons. I was like, yes, that's what I need to be doing. So in that webinar, or maybe in the course that I bought, it basically asked, if you don't have a course yet, what would you want to start a business on? And it had me answer these different questions. I can't remember the exact ones now, but mine started to be all about colleges because I loved, it was kind of, again, this next best thing I could think of at the time. I loved my own college experience. I went to the University of Michigan and just loved it more than a lot of my friends. I just really, like, anytime I was traveling for work with Pepsi, I loved visiting campuses. There's a lot of reasons. And I wanted to help. I loved helping, younger people, and I wanted to help them get to these colleges and have this experience that I did. So I started, a online course that helped families, parents specifically, navigate college admissions to help their kids. And that was the second business that I ran. So that was what I was primarily doing when I went to Bali and when I went to Thailand and did the whole Southeast Asia stint. It's called Talk College to Me. That business exists today. I'm slowly kind of phasing out because it's just, again, not what I'm passionate about anymore.
Say the name of it again.
Talk College to Me.
College to Me.
Yeah. So it was fun. There were so many companies out there that were like really serious in this space, very scholarly, and just felt like intimidating and not exciting. Nice. So my brand was just me as someone who could more casually connect with people, teach people in a way that wasn't so intimidating and scary. So that was that business. And it's, again, an online course. And so from there, I had to learn about, again, building my email list. I became an expert in webinars, in, attracting leads, getting them off a website, nurturing them via emails, all of these things. So just like building up my business skills. So that morphed into, at the same time as I was binging all of the, learning all the business side of everything, I also became really obsessed with personal development kind of books and podcasts. So to preface too, before I started the entrepreneurial life, like I did not read ever. I went to work, I would go to the beach, I hang out with friends. I didn't have time, nor did I care about reading. And I think as I started listening to so many entrepreneurs on Mike Dillard's podcast, everybody was, talking about this book they read and that book they read and this podcast and meditating and life coaches and all these things. So I was like, okay, everybody's doing this. There must be something to it. So I guess one book must have sparked my interest. So I started reading that, and then suddenly I think I read probably over 50 books that first year of just, taking in all the information. And so as I went to Asia, as I was meeting with Wi-Fi Tribe, as I said, I was with all of these new friends. I was helping a lot of people. I'd been through a big life change in terms of, again, ending this engagement, quitting a job, doing the corporate thing, starting a business, traveling the world. And I was able to help a lot of people. And as I look back on my life, I naturally was always that person for my friends to come to and talk to and help and give advice and all of that. But I thought that's just what good friends do. Right. And I realized very quickly, my first couple months traveling, that I had, whether it was friends that I was living with, working with, or people on airplanes, buses, like the most random places, were telling me these deep, dark, like life secrets and their life stories and saying, Marisa, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I've never told this to anyone else, but I feel like I need to tell you. And I was helping them through all these things. And so in those couple months, I can't count the number of people who asked me if I was a life coach. Like I remember on a plane, even one time, someone was like, you're a life coach, right? Can I have your card? And I just remember thinking at that moment, it was the clicking point where it was what I needed to do. And it has a super cliche kind of, I don't know, way, I don't know, the word life coach, I feel like can be really cliche these days, especially in the travel world. Everyone's like, become a life coach, travel the world. So I faced some resistance there, but I just loved helping people. So I got a coaching certification and started doing coaching. I do a lot of this still today. I do one-on-one calls.
Right, that's kind of where you're at now. That's what most of the website I saw was about.
Yeah, most of that, it starts with that, and then it's turned into this medium stuff, which is really different. So we'll talk about how that happened next as well. That's the fourth and the one I'm focusing on most this year. But the coaching is so meaningful to me. It really just changes lives. Like the clients that I have made so many important changes. And for me, it starts with, I kind of focus on career stuff to start. That's where people usually come into my world.
Because it's usually about financial stuff to begin with.
Yeah. And it's for people who maybe are in a job and they know they're not happy, but they don't know what's next, but they don't know, should they start their own business, try this? What would they even do if it wasn't what they're doing? You know, all of that. But then it gets a lot of times far deeper into some really emotional stuff that I love to help, because a lot of times, we're not doing the job because it's related to our parents' expectations or these fears that we have of ourselves, our friends, or society, or whatever that might be. So that's a lot of the work I do now, and it's incredibly meaningful to me, and I love it. So that was number 3.
Cool. So Medium, and not medium.com, but
no, I know everybody's like the blog.
Taking the next evolution of life coaching.
Yes.
To a whole nother level.
A whole nother level. So the Medium stuff for anyone. Yeah. When I first say Medium, when I'm with a lot of travelers and writers, like bloggers, and everyone's like, oh, like medium.com, like you're writing. I'm like, no. So Medium as in speaking with people or communicating with people who are no longer alive on this, in this world anymore, people who have passed on. So I know that's really different for a lot of people, and I'm always super open about it. For people who don't believe anything about it, I'm like, that's cool. I'm just going to share my story of what happened. It's been an interesting one. So my mom was always really she was just into that spiritual kind of stuff when I was growing up. She would, talk about past lives that she knew she'd had, or like there maybe was a spirit in the room. And my brother and I and my friends even, we would always joke and be like, yeah, mom's kind of crazy. And at the time, I believed that what she experienced was her real experience, but I'd never had anything like that myself. Yeah. And when I moved back to Atlanta at the time when I was starting the businesses, my mom's dad had passed away not long before that. And so she was going to these mediums in Atlanta. She was seeing psychics. She was doing all these things. So I would just kind of tag along with her. And as I was reading a lot of these self-development books, a lot of them kind of started to skirt the line around all of this stuff too. And honestly, a lot of it that I look at and was studying and reading was about the quantum physics side of it, about energy and, how I had actually a back pain as well that like nobody could figure out. So I was reading books to figure out like how is pain caused by our emotions and all these things, and all just kind of started connecting. So the first thing that happened to me in terms of becoming a medium, because this was a surprise to me several years ago, I was doing a lot of journaling, and this was really just for like emotional healing. I was trying to get, as I was going through all these crazy life changes, it was just a way, like an outlet for me. And there's one thing called channeling, which for those who may not be familiar, basically means it's kind of like spirit guides or maybe your inner self or voice kind of talks to you. That's what channelers do. And as I was journaling, it started to come through in writing. It was like, these are not my words. It was talking to me. It wasn't me writing. And that was the first thing where I was like, what is happening here? And so that's how it started. This was all while I was just like running my college business, just being, you know, the normal person. So that was the beginning of it. And then I would do a lot of that just by myself, like through writing. And then one day, my friend, a good friend of mine, had a friend who had, or a family member who had committed suicide about a year previous. It was the 1 year anniversary. And she was just having a really hard time that weekend. She felt like there were spirits in her apartment. Of course, like I'm the one she comes to because she knows me and my mom, and we're like the go-to. I'm like, I know who to talk to about this. So we just were having a lot of conversations about it this weekend. And I went home and went home to journal that night. I remember it was a winter night. It was like cold, rainy, all the things. And as I was writing, these words came through as I was writing out that were a letter from her cousin to her. It was a letter to her, the one who had committed suicide. And I had never met her cousin. I didn't know if I was like, what the hell? I don't even know what to do with this. I don't know if it's true. I don't know what it means. I don't know anything. But that was kind of the first thing that happened. And a couple weeks after that, I went to this medium thing with my mom, where she was talking to her father who had passed away. And the next morning I woke up at like 8 a.m. and I had to get out my phone. I just started writing like on the notes of my phone. And it was this letter from my grandfather to my mom. And again, I was like, I feel like I'm making this up, but like, for whatever reason, these are the words that came out. So I sent it to my mom and my dad, and they called me like 20 minutes later, just crying, saying, I don't know how you knew some of these things. This is so meaningful. It was so special. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? So that was the second time. And then where it became really real to me was my mom told her friend about the story that I'd sent her this letter from her dad. And her friend said that she had a daughter who'd had a friend who died of a drug overdose in high school. So her daughter was a freshman in college at this time and was just having a really hard time, hadn't quite processed it. And she asked if I'd write a letter from that boy who had died to her daughter. And so my first response was, I have no idea. I don't know if I can. I don't know if it will work. I don't know if it's going to be accurate, but as long as she knows all that, I'm happy to give it a try. So she sent me a picture of this boy, and I just started writing. And honestly, when I do, it feels like I'm making things up because I don't understand any of it. It doesn't make sense. I don't know these people. I don't know what they're saying or why. And I sent her the letter, and I remember just saying, I don't know what this means. I don't know if it's going to be accurate. I'm really sorry if it's not, but let me know. And so she wrote back and just said, thank you. I've just been sitting here crying. I don't know how you knew these things. This is everything I needed to hear. I can't thank you enough. And so that was kind of that pivotal moment for me where I still think I'm crazy sometimes. So totally cool if everyone else does too. But now I've done it, dozens and dozens of times for people, and same response every single time. And every time I send it, I'm like, oh my God, this isn't going to be accurate. I don't know. But every single person has just said, I don't know how you knew these things. Thank you. This was so meaningful. It's either closure or healing or just information or, all of these things. So that's where I'm at now. So it's kind of this mix of life coaching, and really shifting into a lot of the medium stuff now, and then, working on kind of combining the two as well. So just kind of keep building this life by design accidentally and following whatever comes my way. That's crazy.
That's interesting. Well, it's just like, how do you, because that's such a delicate thing. You got to be careful, how you deal with that, or what you do with it, or how you market it, if you will. That's interesting. So do you have any control over who you're writing on behalf of, or how does that aspect, or especially again, if you're trying to somehow monetize that, you have to be able to do that for a particular person. Is it all just random, or is it?
No. So from my experience so far, I feel, I guess, lucky in a way where I think a lot of mediums, or when people think of a medium, if they even know what it is, they think about someone walking around who's just seeing ghosts all the time, and you can't even, get them away from you. That's not for me. It doesn't happen for me at all. The way it works is I don't have to talk to anybody even. People submit a photo and a list of questions online. So specific questions, the more specific, the better. And I see the picture, I look at the questions, and I just kind of get into the space where I'm ready to do it. And I just connect to that person. So for anybody who's interested, I don't have to, which is crazy to me. I think, when I first even started going to psychics and mediums myself, I remember a psychic was like, I could do it over the phone. And I remember just thinking to myself, that couldn't even be, if this even is real, how would they, it would be more meaningful if I was in person. How could they, read me or know that? So that's what I felt at first. And it's really not the case at all. When you look at the quantum physics and all of the side of it, it's just energetic connections. And so for me, yeah, it can be anybody who requests it. So far, it has never not worked. That's not to say maybe there's a time where I just don't get anything and I would absolutely let someone know that it wouldn't work. But to date, anyone who has submitted a request, send the picture, send the questions, it's been spot on. And yeah, so it's been a wild journey.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a wild ride.
Very wild. Of nothing, if you had told me 5 years ago that I was going to quit my job and write letters from people who are not alive while traveling the world, I would have thought you were 10 billion% crazy, right? The only thing I knew at the time was brand marketing for a giant.
Sure. Have you read much about or have you studied much about all the ESP type stuff or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm pretty fascinated with some of that.
Yeah, somewhere. I honestly, that's one path I haven't quite gone down as much in terms of, I feel like the more I discover about this world, there's so many different verticals you can learn about, and each one, I think I've kind of got it all. And then there's ESP, and there's channeling, and there's chakras, and there's crystals, and there's sound healing, meditation, all the things. Yeah. So I do try to learn. If you have anything you've read or listened to in particular, I'm always love that. But not as much.
Well, I'll tell you, the book that I'm reading right now is The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Okay.
I think it's who is it? Joseph Murray.
Okay. I've never read that one, but it seems
I think it's right in your wheelhouse for sure. But it just talks about the difference between your consciousness and then the subconscious, the things you think to, and so it kind of goes down that manifestations role, but it even goes how you can heal yourself and
Yeah, I believe that as well. A lot of so the medium stuff I do is really mostly communicating with people who are not alive, and it's all through letter writing. But on the flip side, with the coaching and just the stuff that I'm really fascinated by, I'm really into all of that subconscious conscious work. It's a lot of what I help people with through coaching, learning your intuition, all of that. Manifestation, law of attraction, super into. I love all of that world. So I think it's all very fascinating and all somehow it's all related.
So tell me about how you learned how to package all that. Because one of the things that I'm struggling with is I've got my thing is what I've got is 8 keys to great. And it's the idea of following a construction process to rebuild your life or to reconstruct and to build it your dream house, build your dream life kind of thing.
Right.
I know everything that I want to have in there, and I know putting that all into one nice, clean, crisp package / website / book, all that has proven really difficult for me. How were you able to figure some of that out?
I love that question. And I've been where you are. And it's funny. I always say to myself, there's a Steve Jobs quote, if you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. And so for me, my seemingly random businesses that I've done, I think have really prepared me for where I am now and to package this and market it and sell it, right?
College packaging really sets you up for marketing the coaching package, I felt like.
Yeah, exactly. The coaching and this medium stuff as well. It's I'm learning how to, have a website, how to capture people from there and tell my story through my emails. And eventually the way I see mine combining, and I say this because I was exactly where you are about 5-6 months ago, where I said, my story is I have this coaching thing, I have this medium thing, it's one-on-one, I know I want to scale it. And I also don't know how do they come together? And for about 6 months, I could not figure it out. And so I finally got to the point where I had built all these businesses before, running forward. And I said, I don't want to go build a course yet. I don't want to just go build a website. I don't want to go write all these emails and do this business stuff before I'm really clear on where I'm running to. And so for me this time, I took it a little slower, and I just said, when you talk about your subconscious or intuition and things, I said, what is the next best thing I can do at this time? What is this next best thing where I can really think in my gut, what is that, without running 10 steps ahead? Because I couldn't see the bigger vision yet. And so I kept doing my one-on-one coaching. I kept just doing these letters. And at first they were just completely word of mouth. Friends would tell friends and all of that. And now it depends how it all comes together. I did an ayahuasca journey where a lot of this started to make more sense to me. But for me, suddenly it just kind of made sense where I could use the medium stuff, which is what I really want to be doing right now. It's easier for me to do while traveling, ironically. And so I know that I can start building an email list and capturing and building this business. And it's, anyone who joins that is going to be open to this world and open to life coaching as well. We're all kind of seeking answers and things. And so as I'm building up this email list and this business and doing these medium letters, to that list, I will launch any future programs that I want to do coaching that's more scalable. So it might be group coaching of how to, listen to your intuition to, like how do you find the right career? Or maybe it's something about chakras if that's what whatever I'm learning, it's that. So that was kind of my path. And for me, it was like, I'm not going to push it when it feels right. And I know what it is. I'm going to run forward. I'm really good at running forward, but it doesn't make sense if it's in the wrong direction. I didn't want to waste my time. So for you, I think it's just a matter of, and happy to help. We can ask questions as well. So like my coaching side, but what is that right form, and listen to your intuition, listen to your gut. Is it an online course? Is it a book? Is it working one-on-one with people to start, really specifically until you have, what are the commonalities you use from all of them? Or is it a group of 5 people to start, 10 people to start? You take the recordings and launch those. Like there's so many different ways to do it. Or maybe it's just building up your email list through your podcast or other verticals. And then you, again, launch 2-day workshop or, there's so many different ways to go about it and monetize it. And that's why it's funny to me as I look back at progression of these businesses, it all started with that email list from my dessert business, right? That was so seemingly random, but it's really, how do you grow that so you have the right people who know you, like you, trust you to market to. And then from there, I think you have permission to launch anything, right? At the time, do you just want to do like a 2-hour workshop with people? You got your list to launch that and sell it. Do you want to put your head down and build a course? Does that feel right? Do you want to write a book? So again, when I coach people, a lot of that is figuring out for you, for yourself, intuitively. Only you can answer that, right? I can tell you all the options, but I don't know what feels right for you. And once you've got that, it can help you. I do a lot of business coaching too, ironically. I'm like talking to deaf people and I really love the business side too. But yeah, I help people build those businesses as well because I've done multiple ones of them.
Well, I don't want this to turn into a one-on-one personal coaching session because that'll be all about me and then nobody would listen. But I do want to ask you, what's that first step for somebody like me trying to build that email list, or somebody who's wanting to have the vision of starting a business? It all starts with that email list. That's such a critical factor.
Yeah.
How you capture those first 100 emails?
Yeah, the first 100. So one tip that's been given to me that I don't necessarily love, but I'll give you one option and then I'll give you some other options too. People will say to build your dream 100 list. And that might start with literally people that you know. Who do you know in your immediate circle? Other podcast interviewer, people that you've had as a guest, family, friends of friends. Can you just email them and say, hey, this is what I'm starting. I'm going to be sending out, weekly or biweekly or monthly emails. Would you be interested in, right? You can start building it that way. That's not my favorite. I think that's kind of like the old school. I don't like to bother people. Maybe that's like, I don't know. If they're not interested.
I tend to agree with that.
That's my personal opinion. If I know that there's people I know who are interested or like really into something I'm doing, I'm more than happy to share. But I don't want people to I don't want the pity email follows that aren't going to be my people anyway. So that is one way. Second from that, I think podcasts are a great way. So for example, for people who maybe are interested in seeing a sample letter of the medium letters that I write. I have a sample of that and it has comments from the girl who I did it for of what was meaningful and things like that. So if you're up for it, I'll share like a landing page where people can go. So it'd be like marisamedium.com/extraordinary. I'll create that after. So if anyone listening wants to see that, go there, you enter your name and your email, and I'll show you the sample letter. So that's one tactic, and I really will create that for you guys, but that's one way to kind of grow your email list, and it's shared value. So again, for anyone listening, if you never believe me, don't care about my letters, like don't go. I don't want you. If you feel like that's something valuable and you want to learn more, or maybe you have someone who you want to connect with, if you feel like it's real, you just want to learn more about me and how it works, go check it out. So that can start to build your email list. But I always tell people, pick one vertical that you're really good at and just focus. So I think one problem I had when I first started was I was following so many entrepreneurs, and like one person was really good at YouTube, and, they would recommend, do all the YouTube videos, do Facebook Lives, Instagram is where it's at, go on Snapchat, do podcasts. And so I felt like I had to be everywhere and do all the things. And it's just not possible when you first get started. The people who were doing all the things had teams of 10 people, 11 people, 12 people behind the scenes helping them to do all of that. So my advice to people just starting is, what vertical are you best at? Yours is probably podcasting, talking, telling your story. But it could be, again, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Think about any of those, Pinterest is one as well. Any of those places that start out on the top line with the goal of how do you get them off of there onto your email list. And so just pick one, focus, have something very valuable to share, right? For free, and trade for that first name and email. And then start engaging, tell your story. But it's really important that it's, it adds value, and it's not just authentic. Authentic.
Well, that's the whole thing is like, I've been trying to like figure out how to do that conversion. I mean, I've got a lot of those things in place, but I just haven't had the conversions that I'm looking for. But again, I have to keep telling myself how early in the game that it is, and like it's like you're still planting the seeds. You got to just keep planting.
Yeah, exactly, and offering value. And I think that's one thing that I'm glad I had a lot of blissful ignorance, because I saw so many people online who just said, I launched my first webinar and I made $70,000 and life is grand and all of that. And so I kind of went in thinking this can happen really fast. It can happen overnight. There's all these stories. But you're shaking your head no. And I do believe for my medium stuff and my coaching, everything is happening a lot faster than it did for my college business and my dessert business. So maybe when I'm telling this story of, 1 year from now with the medium, it's like I launched this and it all just started booming. But that's after 5 years of a ton of I think mindset work is the biggest thing, right? To keep going.
And 3 evolutions of business, quite frankly. Like, I mean,
and that's the other part.
You would never have that medium business if it weren't for that college entry level bit, at that very early stages. All those were evolutions of what got
exactly. And so for anyone listening, for you, for yourself, it's not, I always hate to say that based on like all the stuff I do with law of attraction, I think it can absolutely happen overnight. If we have no resistance, if we are totally in alignment with what we're offering, with our value, with the people that we're talking to, the service, the products, I think overnight you could find a partner who helps you. It can absolutely happen that way. I think it typically doesn't, not because it's not possible, but because we're not mentally there yet, right? Whether we haven't quite got the business skills, we're not quite like, we're still growing and learning what we're launching, and we're, whatever those hesitations are, you're still learning how to build things. And so, for me, my 3 other businesses leading up to this have been 5 years of preparation for this, the stuff that I'm doing now. And it is moving much faster. It feels more authentic. It feels like the most in alignment I've ever been. It all makes sense, but it's been the hardest 4 or 5 years of my life, and I'm all over the world doing this. So it's like, it's been crazy, but that's what I prioritize. So that's my advice is like, make sure it feels right, get in alignment, and then, find the tools that are most right for you as well.
Cool. We'll get into some more of the fun stuff now. So obviously 4-Hour Workweek was a major impactor for you. What are some other books that were pretty heavily influenced on you? What are you reading now?
So the 2 books that I end up recommending to so many people, a lot of my clients and a lot of my traveling friends and things like that, are The Big Leap, and I think that's Gay Hendricks, and It Starts With Why by Simon Sinek. So the 2 different ones for those, for the people who, when I say it's your why, it's your mission. For me, my mission is healing people, whether that's through coaching, through speaking, through my medium letters, through any of that. Like, that's my big umbrella why. And that book helps you kind of get to your big purpose. And for anyone listening who doesn't know their purpose, I will say again, for so many years, I hated that question because I didn't know mine, and I didn't think that everyone had one, and I thought it was all kind of BS. But the more you really can understand your mission, it just helps you to understand like the executions and what you're doing. So if you don't know your mission, if you don't know why you're doing anything that you're doing or what you want to be doing, that's a really great book. And then The Big Leap is really kind of the consequences of not taking the leap to do your big why, I would say. So those are kind of the verticals, or like the order I would go in.
Yeah, no, I like that, because it makes you realize that there are regrets that you can have by not taking some of these risks, for sure.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people end up in that boat. One of the biggest things I try to get people to try to realize, for sure.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, being that you're always on the go and that you're traveling the world and everything.
Yes.
Books are heavy and they're hard, like, especially when you get a lot of them and collecting all this. So are you consuming audiobooks? Are you doing ebooks? Are you doing old school paperback hard copy kind of thing? How do you consume these books?
I typically read them all on my Kindle. So every now and then I'll do audiobooks. Mostly I listen to podcasts. If I'm in the airport, traveling, walking, cleaning, whatever, I listen to podcasts. And then I like to read books still, but I read them all on my Kindle. But I have some, there was a guy who I was with last month who had a book that I'd heard about for a long time. And if this one, I stole it from him, or would read it in the mornings before he woke up. I'll read.
What book was that, if you don't mind me asking?
It was 0 to 1.
Nice.
Which is a fun one. They just all make you think differently. But Kindle is a lifesaver. It's like at the tip of my fingertips. Anyone talks about a book or says it, I have it right away, and it's super small. I can read it on the beach, on the pool. I do a lot of reading still.
I need to keep going back and try it. I've tried them a few times, and I always go back to old school paper. I'm just so tight. But it's funny. What I did start doing was consuming some audiobooks, and then once I consumed it via audio and I really liked it, then I went and bought it.
Oh, interesting.
And then taking notes. And then it's really neat because it actually gave me a whole other set of perspectives on it that second time around too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a cool way to do it.
Ryan Holiday talks about like writing in the margins and stuff like that. And so that's kind of one of the things I'm trying to do now, is like when I read a book, I actually take notes in it and write it and tear it up,
Yeah, I struggle with that. It's funny. I was listening to an interview at some point, because when I first started reading, I would take notes. I always take notes on my phone in the little note section, and anything I wanted to remember, or like any great sentences or concepts, I would write in my notes, thinking I would.
Do you use Evernote for that, or what do you use for that?
I just use like the straight up iPhone Notes app, and it's super simple, but I love it. But then it really changed for me. Somebody asked this guy, they said, you're interviewing so many people, you're, taking in so much content. Like, how do you remember it all? Do you take notes? Like, what do you do? And his response was, if it's important enough, I'll remember. And that was a really big shift for me, because I think as I'm reading, it's a lot of information packaged, same information packaged in a different way or different concept. And I read so much that I think as I'm taking it all in, I'm not in school anymore. I don't have to, have a test that's going to quiz me on these things. And I find it's easier and kind of more enjoyable for me now that it doesn't feel like schoolwork. I'm just reading, and I'll have, when I do a lot of coaching, I have these quotes or things that just pop into my head from books that I don't even know how they got there, how they stayed, but that's kind of my take on it now. So I see both. That's
funny, because if I don't write it down, and especially with the quotes, it's one thing I've really tried to work on. Benjamin Hardy is a PhD in organizational psychology, and he can just hit these quotes and remember who they're by just amazingly well. And so the only way that I've been able to do that is if I write them down, and actually and more specifically write down the author, because I'm pretty good about remembering the quote, but not so good about remembering who was the one who said it, or quoting the right person, or sourcing it the way that I should. I'm always like, well, somebody said, such and such,
Yeah. My clients always laugh at me, because I'm like, I'm the queen of butchering those, like all the cliche quotes. I follow these quote things on Instagram too, and I love them. And I'm like, okay, I can't quite remember what it was, but it's something along these lines, and gets the point across.
I hate it when I can't.
Not as nicely said, but better than nothing. So
I've worked really hard to try to improve my memory skills so that I don't screw them up. Because I found once you screw them up, then they lose a lot of meaning.
They definitely do.
Significance when you can't
screw them up all the time. Yes.
But, are you familiar with Jim Quick?
No.
Some of his memory techniques and stuff like that?
No, I've never heard of him.
He's a really neat guy. He's from actually Southeast Asia, but he's worked a lot with actors and stuff about these different memory techniques that are really cool.
cool.
to help you remember quotes and things. And what I've really used for him for those is the names, remember people's names.
Right. I'll have to check it out.
You can
That
recall
would be useful.
quickly. Yeah, he's great. So do you listen to much music?
I listen to just random Spotify playlists. I feel like I never have time to create them or make them my own. But a lot of times when I'm traveling, I use Shazam and in different countries. So in Mexico right now, it's Latin music. When I was in the Middle East, I have no idea what this is. I would Shazam things and just make playlists of wherever I am.
Nice.
So I have a lot of playlists from the different countries that I've been in. I try to listen to those wherever I am. But I just like the good old normal Spotify playlist too.
So being a world traveler, what's the one item under $100 that you could not live without? Tim Ferriss question.
I know that one. I was like, my immediate thing is my laptop because that is my business and my life.
Yeah, but that's over 100, so the
that
phone
is
and
over.
the laptop don't count.
Yes.
Preferably the cheaper the better. Or what's something that somebody that wants to be a world traveler should always pack or remember to have, or what's that go-to
I'm like looking around to see what I have nearby.
Yeah, what's in your pocket at the moment or something?
I know, right? Well, there's tons of travel tips and hacks of like things that you should have that are helpful that I can spit off as well. But the other thing came to mind is my Kindle, because I read in airports wherever I am.
Yeah, but I think that's probably more than $100 though, isn't it?
Is it?
How much is
maybe not on Black Friday. I don't know. That's a good question. Oh man, I'm failing at this game. Okay, what else do we have? There's this thing called, it's a turtle neck pillow. I think it's like, maybe it's TRTL, I'm not sure, but it's just like this little thing that like wraps around your head and you look like a crazy person, but it keeps your neck straight on planes and buses and cars. So that'll be one
of my other world travelers talked about that.
Oh, really?
The neck pillow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I asked him two questions
because
he
much
travels
smaller and compact.
Yeah, he travels in the U.S. and he travels a lot internationally. So I asked him, like, what's a good international thing and what's a good domestic thing?
Yeah.
And he said that was the neck pillow was the way to go for sure.
Yeah, and not the big neck pillows. They take up too much space and whatever. But yeah, this one's the turtle one. It's like a weird thing and it wraps around almost like a scarf and you look very weird. But it's helpful. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we just blew through an hour in a hurry, and I haven't even hardly scratched the surface, I feel like. But we covered a lot of really cool things. Who's somebody that you think would be good for this podcast?
Oh, who else to come on it?
Yeah, who would you find interesting or entertaining to hear on this based on my format and what I'm doing? What little bit you've kind of seen and heard.
Yeah, I'll have to recommend a traveling friend of mine. His name is Matt. He has a podcast as well. He's been a nomad for about 6 years. I don't know why he's the first person that popped into my mind, but he's got an awesome real estate business that's based in the U.S. that he does completely remotely for people interested in investing, and just has a fun story. And I think he'd be a good one. What's
the name of his podcast?
The Maverick Show.
The Maverick Show. Very
cool.
So 10 years from now, what does an ideal day look like for you? You think you'll still be living this lifestyle? What are your thoughts? What do you think 10 years looks like?
People don't usually ask the 10 years, but are like, when are you going to be done? Are you going to do this forever? I think 10 years from now, I would love to have a family and kids at some point. So I think that's where I see myself 10 years, but I definitely want to still be traveling in a big way. So whether that's, I think it would be awesome to have a home base still, to have that place to come back to, and be able to kind of pop back and forth to say, if I want to spend a month or two away, come back, or maybe it's just like summers or, whatever that is. But I definitely think that there's a way to still do a little bit of both. I don't think, as Tim Ferriss, I'll probably want to be moving quite as much as I am now. But there's still so much of the world to see. So that's how I see kind of living. And then, I still want to be using these medium powers and the coaching and all of these skills to heal people. And I think kind of like in Joe Dispenza way, I want to be doing it in a bigger way and teaching people what I believe about, how you talked about how our mind-body connection of healing. And my overall goal is to help heal people from illnesses and pain that we suffer from, because I think a lot of it is just these subconscious things that are pushed down that we don't even realize. So that's my big grand goal as I'm traveling and hanging around.
So I normally ask people like, what's a bucket list item? But for you, I think your bucket list looks different than most people.
Yeah.
What is something that you hope to, while you're still in this travel lifestyle, where you're able to really kind of go as wild and crazy as you want to, or go as far and wide as you feel like you want to do. What is the farthest and widest you'd like to go? What is something on that bucket list that you'd like to check off the list?
I will go as far and wide as anywhere. I'm really, like, honestly, in the past year, I lived in Nigeria, Oman in the Middle East, and Panama, Argentina, Bolivia, and in Mexico now. So like there are nothing off limits really. But I think, as I think about my bucket list, I have not a super ambition to do this like in the next year or anything, but I would love to visit every country in the world is kind of my goal. And I realize I can't push myself. I used to go to, the last 2 years, I've been to about 20 plus countries each year. And it's wearing on me. It's really hard. So I'm kind of slowing down and spending more time in one place. But I think overall, I would love to get to every country at some point. Is my big bucket list.
Nice. That's a hefty goal for sure.
Yeah.
If you had to lay down roots somewhere outside the U.S., what would be your favorite? What would you think, now that you've been up to what, like 50 something plus 51?
I think I'm at 61 now.
Oh, 61. Wow.
Yeah.
So out of all those places, where would you lay the roots down outside the U.S.?
Yeah, it's funny. So I don't know exactly. So I'm in Playa del Carmen, Mexico right now. I've been here for the last 5 weeks. And honestly, my old answer would have been Bali. It's super laid back. It's amazingly healthy food. Like you can have the most amazing villas, and the cost of living is incredible. And there's so many awesome islands. But it is gorgeous. Being really, it is. But it's really hard being across, like that far across the world. So it's a 12-hour time change from Atlanta, which is where most of my friends and family are. So, all day I'm like, I need to text my mom or call my friends, and, you're flip-flop time zones, and it's really hard. So honestly, Mexico, I'd want to find exactly where. So in Playa del Carmen, where I am, like, it's just been the most amazing, super chill. It's really easy. There's all sorts of exercise that I love here. It's beautiful weather. Yeah, like I'm taking boxing classes. There's a stadium right across the street where everyone's doing salsa dancing at night, like playing basketball, and there's beach volleyball, and it's just easy. Everyone's just so laid back here, and it's a 2-hour flight from Atlanta, 2.5 hours. So I know it's like closer than New York. So honestly, Mexico, I know.
You tied me into it.
Well, we record this podcast in person in Mexico. So yeah, it was kind of, I think Mexico's underappreciated in terms of travel, but I think just in the proximity to the US, I'm into it. So that might be my answer for now.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. As we wrap it up, I always want to give everybody a chance to plug all their stuff. We talked about your business, but let's officially, you want to plug into your social media, Instagram, and also to any charities or businesses that you support or that you want to promote, that a good cause kind of thing.
Yeah, so for the charity, I can start there. I donate a percentage of my income to Pencils of Promise, which I love. So if anybody wants to donate, my goal is to build a school in Ghana.
Tell me that a little bit. I'm not familiar with that program.
Oh, okay. So Pencils of Promise is a really awesome program. It's an entrepreneur who started it, and they build schools in Ghana, Laos, and Guatemala, I think is the third one, for just in pretty remote towns for kids who wouldn't really have access to good education. And so they not only just build the school and leave, they help, ongoing support the teachers and provide, pencils and books
materials,
and all the materials and whatnot. So again, it's a more sustainable way. And I think education is a great way to help a particular area long-term, right? Rather than just giving money and kind of leaving.
Sure.
So my goal is to personally build, not me personally building it, I'd love to help, but for the finances I'm able to donate from the percentage of the letters that I write, coaching, college business, all of that to Pencils of Promise. So that's the charity side that I love, and I can include a link to that. For anyone who wants to download a letter, if you're into the Medium thing or have someone that you want to connect to who's passed on and just want to see what that looks like with some comments from the person who received it, so it makes sense to you, you can go to Marisa, which is Marisa, medium.com/extraordinary, and download the letter to take a look. My website is just marisamedium.com if you want to learn more. And then Instagram, it's mostly just me and my travels, which I love to share, like all the places. Thank you. Yeah. I try to share just real things in places that you wouldn't necessarily see if you're just on vacation and things like that. So that's at ML Meddin is my last name, Meddin. So ML Meddin. And that's where I'm at. Yeah.
What did I fail to ask you that I should have?
What did you fail to ask me? I never think there's anything failed to ask. I love these conversations. For anyone who's interested in learning more about whether it's coaching or business or medium stuff, I love to connect. So feel free to message on Instagram or anything like that. Subconscious, manifestation, law of attraction. I mean, we could talk for hours.
I was gonna say we need to schedule a part 2 because I'd really like to go deep into some of those topics, particularly the personal development stuff, because obviously that's in our realm. So we'll have to.
Yeah, I'm happy.
But I know you got another interview coming up right after this one, and I want to give you at least a little bit of time in between. So thank you for your time today. It was
You are so
awesome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening. So, what'd you think? What did I miss? Was there a topic you wish we had covered? Was there an area of discussion you want to know more about? Or was the whole thing just too long? Please send us your questions and feedback on social media to @extraordinarypodcast or check out our website, extraordinarypodcast.net. Subscribe there for all the latest episodes, blog posts, and more. And if you're tired of living the same old ordinary life, shoot me an email, nate@extraordinarypodcast.net, and I will send you your own customizable blueprint that will walk you through step by step how to create your own extraordinary life. And if you or someone you know already fits the profile, you can submit a request to be interviewed on the website as well. Finally, if you like what you heard or learned today, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and follow the Extraordinary Podcast on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And if you feel inspired, show your support for the show by donating through Patreon. It is through this financial support that we are able to continue to bring to light ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Thank you for your support, and most of all, just being you. This is Nate G, and we'll see you next week.